Welcome back to Coin Nexa Vault. Before we get into today's lineup, I need you to understand something. The Washington quarters sitting in your change jar right now are not all created equal, and some of them carry details so specific, so quietly extraordinary, that the difference between a coin worth face value and one worth serious collector money comes down to a single letter, a single digit, a single mark you can check in about 30 seconds. Every coin on today's list has real substance behind it, real auction history, real collector demand, and I promise you, with zero hesitation, that the final coin on this list is the most remarkable of the four, the kind of find that makes experienced collectors stop mid-sentence when one surfaces in grade. Stay with us. The 1996p Washington quarter is one of those coins that gets passed over constantly. People see a quarter from the 90s, they assume it's worth 25 cents, and they move on. But that assumption has cost some people a genuinely significant amount of money, because the 1996p has a collector story that most casual observers have never heard. Here is the thing about the Philadelphia Mint's output in 1996. The Mint was striking quarters in massive volume that year to keep up with circulation demand, and when a mint pushes high production numbers, quality control across the full run becomes harder to maintain, which means the coins that emerged with the sharpest, most fully defined strikes, every feather in Washington's hair, every letter in the motto above the eagle perfectly raised and crisp, are dramatically scarcer than the raw. Mintage numbers would lead you to believe. So here is exactly what you need to check on your 1996p quarter. Flip it to the obverse and look at the lettering in Liberty running along the upper left arc of the coin. On a weakly struck example, those letters will look slightly soft and rounded at the edges. On a sharply struck specimen, every letter will have hard, defined edges with visible detail in the field around them. Then turn your attention to Washington's hair just above and behind his ear. That tight cluster of curls is the single most diagnostic area for strike quality on this design. And on a truly well-struck 1996p, those individual curl lines are distinct and separated rather than merging into a soft, undifferentiated mass. If you are holding a 1996p quarter where both of those details are sharp and the surfaces show original cartwheel luster with no contact marks in the central fields, you are potentially holding a coin that belongs in a PCGS or NGC submission envelope rather than in a change jar. A certified MS-67 example of the 1996p Washington quarter has brought prices in the range of several $100s at auction, and top pop MS-68 specimens, meaning examples that represent the finest known strikes in the entire population of certified coins, have crossed into the low thousands of dollars, driven by the simple reality that population reports at those grades show almost nothing. The 1996p also benefits from what collectors call the sleeper dynamic. It has historically been undervalued relative to its true rarity in gem condition, which means the collector market is still in the process of catching up to what top-grade examples are actually worth, and that repricing tends to happen fast once registry set competition heats up. Philadelphia in 1996 was a busy, high-output facility, and the workers on those production lines were not thinking about MS-68 coin quality. They were thinking about meeting quotas, which is precisely why the coins that slipped through at the top of the quality range are the rare exceptions rather than the rule. As always, condition is everything here. A circulated 1996p is worth 25 cents, a mid-grade mint state example is worth a few dollars, but a certified, top-tier gem is a completely different conversation, and that conversation starts with a loop, good lighting, and the specific details I just gave you to check. Now, if that coin got your attention, what's coming next is going to demand it, because the 1992D Washington quarter has a detail hiding near its mint mark that almost nobody checks, and the collectors who do check it are very quietly pulling some remarkable coins out of ordinary rolls. Next, 1992D Washington Quarter, and I want to open this one with a direct challenge, because if you have any 1992D quarters in your possession right now and you have not examined them under magnification near the mint mark, there is a real possibility you have already missed something significant. The Denver Mint in 1992 is responsible for one of the more quietly discussed varieties in the Washington Quarter series, and the reason it stays quiet is because the feature you need to find requires a decent magnifying glass and some patience, which means the overwhelming majority of people who have ever held a 1992D quarter have never actually looked at the thing properly. Here is what you are checking for. On the reverse of the coin, the Denver D mint mark was punched into the working die by hand during this era of production. This is the critical context. And hand-punched mint marks are inherently subject to human error, meaning the punch could be applied at a slightly rotated angle with uneven depth, or in some cases, applied more than once with the second impression slightly misaligned from the first. That second scenario is what produces a repunched mint mark, and on 1992D quarters, collectors who have gone through rolls of these coins with a loop have pulled RPM varieties where you can clearly see a secondary D impression either above, below, or rotated relative to the primary mark. A doubling that is completely invisible to the naked eye but unmistakable under even modest magnification. To look for it, orient the coin so you are looking at the reverse. Locate the D mint mark sitting just to the right of the ribbon at the bottom of Washington's neck on the obverse. Wait, I want to be precise here. On the reverse of the quarter, focus on the area near the eagle's breast above the denomination, and find the mint mark position. Under a loupe or jeweler's glass at 5x or 10x magnification, study the interior of the D and the serifs at its terminals. Any secondary impression will appear as a faint but distinct ghost of the letter shape slightly offset in one direction. Beyond the RPM question, the 1992D in straight gem uncirculated condition is itself a coin worth chasing. Denver's strike quality in 1992 was variable, and fully struck examples with strong eagle feather detail on the reverse, particularly in the upper breast and the wing coverts, combined with original luster and clean fields, are genuinely hard to locate in certified MS67 or above. A PCGS or NGC certified MS67 1992D Washington quarter trades comfortably in the range of a few $100s, and a confirmed RPM variety in comparable grade adds a meaningful premium on top of that baseline, because variety collectors and registry set builders are competing for the same small pool of certified examples. The historical context for 1992 adds another layer of interest. This was one of the final years of the traditional copper-nickel clad composition before the state quarters program would eventually transform how Americans thought about quarter collecting entirely, and pre-state quarter Washington quarters in top condition have seen renewed collector interest precisely because they represent a largely overlooked chapter of the series. The Denver Mint's 1992 output was substantial in terms of raw numbers, which is exactly why most people never think twice about a 1992D. But raw numbers mean nothing when the survival rate of gems is this low, and that gap between mintage and gem survival is where coin value actually lives. Certify it if it looks right, and do not let the date fool you into thinking recent automatically means common. And speaking of not letting dates fool you, the next coin on our list is from 1991, and its Denver Mint story has a wrinkle in it that pushes the value conversation in a direction that is going to surprise you. Next, 1991D Washington Quarter, and here is the contrarian claim I want to make right at the start. The 1991D Washington Quarter is more valuable in top condition than most collectors who are new to the series would ever guess. And the reason it surprises people is because 1991 feels recent enough that nobody thinks of it as a genuine rarity. But the certified population data at the highest grades tells a very different story than the one people assume. Pull up the PCGS or NGC population report for the 1991D in MS67 and above, and you will see numbers so thin, in some cases literally a handful of confirmed examples at the very top grade, that the scarcity becomes impossible to argue with. This is not a coin where value is being invented or inflated. It is a coin where the data simply is what it is, and what it says is that finding a 1991 D Washington quarter in true gem condition is genuinely difficult. Here is your visual check for this coin. On the obverse, the key diagnostic area is Liberty, specifically the individual letter forms and their relationship to the rim. On a sharply struck 1991 D, each letter in Liberty will sit cleanly within the field with a visible separation between the letter's edge and the raised rim of the coin. On a weakly struck example, one or more letters will appear to crowd into the rim or soften at their edges. Next, move to the obverse portrait itself and look at Washington's jawline and the area just beneath his chin. This zone tends to accumulate contact marks from bag friction more than almost any other spot on the coin, and a truly mark-free example in this specific area is part of what separates an MS-65 from an MS-67 in the grader's eye. On the reverse, the eagle's left talon, the viewer's right, gripping the arrows is another zone worth examining closely, as strike weakness in this area is common on 1991 D examples and is often the detail that keeps a coin from reaching the top of the grade scale. Denver in 1991 was producing quarters alongside a range of other coinage, and the production pressures of that era were real. Quality control was not focused on producing gems for future collectors. It was focused on keeping commerce moving, which is precisely why the coins that emerge from that year in exceptional condition are exceptional by accident rather than by design. A certified MS-67 1991 D Washington quarter is a coin that commands serious attention from set builders, and examples at that grade have sold at auction in the range of several hundred to over $1,000 depending on eye appeal and the competitive dynamics of the sale. The 1991 D also has a quiet following among collectors who specialize in Denver Mint issues specifically. There is a subset of the Washington quarter collecting community that builds mint mark-specific sets, and for those collectors, a top-grade 1991 D is not optional, it is essential, and essential coins in short supply tend to hold their value exceptionally well over time. As always, the grade you see with your eye at home and the grade a professional third-party service assigns are sometimes very different things, which is why every coin that looks promising based on the details I've described deserves a proper submission to PCGS or NGC before you make any decisions about what you are holding. What we've covered so far has been building towards something: 3 strong coins, real value, real rarity at grade. But I want to prepare you for the fact that the coin we are about to discuss, the 1990 P Washington quarter, has a detail attached to it that makes everything we've covered today look like the undercard, and I am not going to qualify that statement at all. Next, 1990 P Washington quarter, and this is the one. This is the coin I referenced at the very start of this video when I told you the final entry on this list was the most remarkable of all, and now I am going to show you exactly why that is not hype. It is numismatic fact. The 1990 P Washington quarter occupies a specific and genuinely prestigious position in the Washington quarter series for a reason that goes beyond simple scarcity, and that reason starts with the certified population data at the absolute top of the grade scale, which for this coin is among the most dramatic in the entire modern quarter series. In MS-68, the 1990 P Washington quarter has one of the lowest confirmed populations of any Philadelphia-struck Washington quarter from this era. We are talking about a number of confirmed examples that you can count on one hand, and that extreme rarity at the top tier is the foundation of everything interesting about this coin. But let's make this concrete and give you something to check right now. On the obverse of your 1990 P quarter, find the "I in God We Trust" motto running horizontally across the upper portion of the field. On a premium strike, every letter in that motto will be fully raised with sharp, defined edges and clear separation between each character. No crowding, no softness, no letters that blur together under a loop. Now shift your attention to the portrait of Washington himself, specifically the area of his ear and the curls of hair immediately behind it. This is the zone where strike weakness shows up first on Philadelphia quarters from this period, and it is the zone where the difference between an MS-66 and an MS-68 is most visually apparent. A coin that is going to grade at the top of the scale will have individually defined curl lines in this area that look almost sculptural, while a coin that tops out at MS-65 or MS-66 will show those same curls as a softer, less differentiated mass. On the reverse, examine the eagle, not just the breast feathers, which get a lot of attention, but the tail feathers at the bottom of the eagle's body just above the denomination. Tail feather definition is the reverse's equivalent of the hair curl test on the obverse, and on a true gem 1990p, those tail feathers will be individually delineated rather than merging into a soft, undifferentiated shape. Philadelphia in 1990 was not producing quarters with collectors in mind. The mint was feeding a circulation economy, and the idea that someone 40 years later would be examining individual curl lines under magnification would have seemed completely absurd to the workers on that production floor. That gap between intention and outcome is part of what makes coin collecting so remarkable as a hobby. Ordinary objects made for ordinary use occasionally emerge at a level of quality that their makers never specifically intended, and those accidental gems become the coins that drive real collector competition. A certified MS-67 1990p Washington quarter is a coin worth several $100s in today's market. A certified MS-68, depending on eye appeal and the competitive climate at the time of sale, has achieved prices that push into the multiple thousands of dollars. And the reason is simply that there are more collectors who want one than there are confirmed examples that exist, and that imbalance in supply and demand does exactly what economics says it should do to price. The 1990p is also a coin that benefits from being genuinely underestimated. Most people flipping through a roll of quarters from a bank would not look twice at a 1990p, and that's precisely the environment where discoveries get made, which means the person most likely to find one is not a professional numismatist with access to rare auction inventory. It is someone watching a video exactly like this one, who now knows exactly which specific details to check. If you've got a coin like any of these sitting at home, drop a comment and let me know. And if you enjoyed this, hit subscribe so you never miss the next one.